afternoon. This is the Francesco Abbruzzino live news and talk show. This is a worldwide transmission through the TVSN network, a Minor Threat production. The show is on Monday through Fridays from 3 to 5 with reruns running continuously 24/7. The call-in number, 941-584-4874, which I haven't had a lot of time to take any calls. I've had just a few. Sponsorships, as you saw, you should have seen up on the marquee before you came in, the show started. We're looking for sponsorships for this program and for many of my Facebook pages that are out there. If interested, just go to the Francesco Abbruzzino show on Facebook or Educate, Inspire, and Change, and I have the information right there on the top of the box. Now, lots of news today from Obamacare to red light traps, electrical grid issues, covering that again, gun control, kosher meals in the prisons, and lots more. Like the title says, inspire. Well, let's go ahead and get you guys inspired. This is a motivational video. I sit there and I look through a few of them every night, and I try to find one that's inspirational and play it, and something that gets me motivated. So this one did it for me. Let's go ahead and listen to it now.
It was a young man who, he wanted to make a lot of money, and so he went to this guru, right? And he told the guru, I want to be on the same level you are. And so the guru said, if you want to be on the same level I'm on, I'll meet you tomorrow at the beach. Got there at 4 a.m. He all ready to rock and roll, got on the suit, should have wore shorts. The old man grabs his hand and said, how bad do you want to be successful? He said, real bad. He said, walk on out in the water. So he walks out into the water. Watch this. When he walks out to the water, it goes wasted. So he like, this guy crazy. Adrian, I want to make money. He got me out here swimming. I didn't ask to be a lifeguard. I want to make money. He got me in. So he said, come out a little further. Walk out a little further. Then he had it right around this area, the shoulder area. So this old man crazy. He making money, but he crazy. He said, come on out a little further. He came out a little further. Was right at his mouth. My man like, I'm about to go back in here. This out his mind. So the old man said, I thought you said you wanted to be successful. He said, I do. He said, walk a little further. He can't drop his head in, held him down, hold him down. My man getting stretching, holding him down. He had him held down just before my man was about to pass out. He raised him up. He said, I got a question for you. He told the guy, he said, when you want to succeed, 3 days in a row. Because if you go to sleep, you might miss the opportunity to be successful. That's how bad you gotta want. You gotta go days without, listen to me, you gotta want to be successful so bad that you forget to eat. Beyonce said once she was on the set doing her thing, 3 days had gone by, she forgot she didn't eat. Because she was engaged. I never forget when 50 Cent was doing his movie, I did a little research on 50, and 50 said that when he wasn't doing the movie, he was doing the soundtrack. And they said, when do you sleep, 50? Sleep. He said, sleep. Sleep is for those people who are broke. I don't sleep. I said, I got an opportunity to make a dream become a reality. Don't cry to quit. You already in pain. You already hurt. Get a reward from it. Don't go to sleep until you succeed. Listen to me. I'm here to tell you today that you can come here, you can jump up, you can do flips, you can be excited when you give away money. But listen to me, you will never be successful, and I don't have to give you a dime to do what you do. You won't be successful until you say, I don't need that money. Because I got it in here.
Okay, there you go. Pretty inspirational. It's about basically you got the guy in the background telling you what you need to succeed. Obviously, he believes in you don't need sleep to succeed because only the wealthy don't sleep, which I should be a billionaire by then. Now, then you had the guy that just goes the extra mile and doing the extra thing to try to achieve his objective, which is to become a all-star professional football player. Pretty inspiring, and the point there is just keep going for your objective, keep pushing yourself, don't sit down in front of the TV and start to become zombified by the TV to realize that dream and go after it. Next, we're, like I've been doing for the last few days, is the covering each amendment for the Bill of Rights. Again, oh yeah, just so for everyone that's new to the show, I do all the technical, all the research, and the hosting of the show. So if I seem distracted, I'm looking away, that's because I'm basically a one-man operation doing everything. Seventh Amendment, we're covering that today because I feel that the government has taken advantage of many of the citizens of the United States, basically because we're not up to speed on our Bill of Rights. We don't realize our rights when it comes to gun control, the right to remain silent, or the Seventh Amendment, which is the right to a jury trial in certain civil cases and inhibits courts from overturning a jury's finding of fact. You don't see too many abuses of this one. You primarily see it on the earlier amendments, but and I think everybody basically knows that amendment, the Seventh Amendment, pretty well. Case history, I try to find recent news of some recent case history involving the Seventh Amendment. All I could come up with is Florida overturns arbitrary unconstitutional damages cap in a victory. The judges and the Seventh Amendment right to a jury trial. The Florida Supreme Court became the latest to strike down unconstitutional medical malpractice damage caps that do nothing but protect negligent doctors and hospitals at the expense of innocent victims. And that case involved the Seventh Amendment right to a jury trial, and this is from the Legal Examiner, if you want to check it out. So there we go. Tomorrow, the Eighth Amendment, and we'll continue on, and who knows, maybe we'll go beyond the 10. All right, so in the news today, a lot of for some reason I have Obamacare up here first. I wanted to start with something else, but we'll go ahead and delve into Obamacare with some new stuff that has come out. As many of you may or may not know, the deadline for Obamacare is on the 31st. What's happening, though, is a lot of people are signing up for Obamacare, and they're not seeing that their insurance coverage is there, like I illustrated during yesterday's show. So let's basically go with this one first. And this is from The Conversation, Breitbart. And basically, they're talking about the Obamacare enrollment, which has achieved the objective of 5 million subscribers, according to the announcement, or people that have signed up. as well as previous enrollment milestones, we know that this is not certainly true, which one of the major obstacles they're having is, and when you sign up, there's on a certain part of the process, there's nothing there to collect your payment. So you go through and say, yeah, I want this insurance. You never make the payment. And they're finding that a large percentage of the people end up not paying and going to it. Also, they're finding that a lot of people, a large percentage, which I'll cover in a second, are people with existing insurance and they're just transitioning over. So it's not really new insurance when you look at those 5 million new Obamacare enrollees. Despite the problem with the numbers, the announcement does not demonstrate that the pace of enrollment has picked up significantly, which it has. Now, they've slowed it down. They're only expecting 6 million instead of 7 million, so that's going to be quite a jump in the next, 12 days. They're hoping to get another million. Even if the official enrollment number will reach the CBO's downgraded prediction of 6 million by the end of the month, the issue is the way the government measures enrollment and how it differs the way insurers measure it. The Federal Health Exchange still has no payment mechanism, which I mentioned to you. That means the online process ends when the consumer selects a plan and the website contacts the insurance company. After that, it ends. The insurance company's got to try to get a hold of the individual, and hopefully the individual decides to go with them and pays, and they haven't looked elsewhere. And in fact, a significant percentage of people never pay their first month's premium. From the insurer's perspective, these people who don't pay were never enrolled, even though they became part of the government announcement. Let's see, it says Breitbart News and others begin to ask the percentage of people who are failing to complete the process by paying their first premium. Since the federal government doesn't collect money or even facilitate the transactions, they have no immediate way to measure how many people fall through. In short, the government does not know how many people intend to enroll or how many do. The figure from state to state and between large and small insurers is different, but on average, about 20% of the people never pay. Okay, so you got to assume 5 million, 20% of them are not going to pay, so it's a little bit downgraded from that. Also, the Obama administration is pushing out like this is 5 million people that now have insurance that didn't have insurance before. That's not the case. As many of you should know, a lot of individuals were being kicked off their current policies because they didn't have the coverage, or they had to change the way the coverage was to adapt for Obamacare. Now, a month into that, I think it was, Obama came out and said, okay, we're going to allow them some flex time. I think it was 1 year. And but it was already too late. A lot of them were kicked off, and it's not, the insurance companies don't have to adhere to that. If they want to kick you out, they can. It was just something that Obama was hoping that they would follow, since he put it out there saying, why don't we do this? It's also important to note that most of the people buying are people who had insurance before. At least 4.7 million people lost their insurance at the end of last year as a result of Obamacare grandfathering rules. So even though he did change the rules so that you could keep your existing insurance, still had 4.7 million that could not. So you got 4.7 million that could not. You've had 5 million that have enrolled. That tells me there's not a hell of, and maybe 20% of those aren't paying their first premium. So there's not a hell of a lot of people that are getting new insurance that never had insurance before. They're just moving them around. And recall, a lot of them, like yesterday, they're paying their premiums. They've been paying them for a few months, and they don't have the coverage there. This is an issue, where is it? Right here, cancer. I told you guys yesterday about an individual ran up, I think, a $410,000 bill because there's issues with Obamacare that he had signed up for. This is another one, and this is from the AP. Concerns about cancer centers around health law. Some of America's best cancer hospitals are off limits to many of the people now signing up for coverage under the nation's new health care program. An AP survey found examples coast to coast. Seattle Cancer Care Alliance is excluded by 5 out of 8 insurers in Washington Insurance Exchange. Dr. Anderson of the Cancer Center says it is less than half of the plans in the Houston area. In all, only 4 of the 19 nationally recognized comprehensive cancer centers that responded to AP's survey said patients have access through their insurance companies in their state exchanges. Only 4 out of 19. So if you got cancer and you're on Obamacare, might as well go down and get your burial plot planned out. This is a marked deterioration of access to the premier cancer centers for people who are signing up for these plans. And there's one other problem. It's not easy for consumers shopping online in the new insurance markets to tell if top-level institutes are included in their plan. So when they're online, they're trying to find out if these institutes are covered. It's not an easy process to see if they are covered. It's not an easy process to see if your doctor is covered, as you know from previous shows where I showed you on record doctors that were on the exchanges listed as in-network providers, and lo and behold, they are not. And that's what a lot of people base their decisions upon. They want their doctor, and they wanted to go with an insurance that doctor is in-network with. To keep the premiums low, insurers are designed narrow networks of hospitals and doctors. So there's less doctors and less hospitals that are in network, and they're doing this specifically to keep the premiums low and also to keep their costs down. By not including top cancer centers, an insurer can cut costs and may also shield themselves from any risk. The issue seems to be limited to the new insurance exchanges, or Obamacare. Premiums on the rise. Why don't we go ahead? We'll watch this video first, and this one's going to come to you from Fox News, and this is rise. They're going to explain how the premiums are rising faster than in the past 8 years, and then we'll discuss it. So hold on for that video right now. Let's go to it. Why it's queuing up. I don't know if I'm going to have enough time. It says health insurance premiums have risen more after Obamacare than the average premium. Increases over the 8 years before it became law. Premiums have risen 39%.
The creator of Jason Bourne.
That's commercial. 39% since February of 2013, according to eHealth reports. The average individual premium is now $274 a month. Families have been hit harder, with the premiums now at $663 a month versus $426 on average last year. They said an important caveat to the health insurance prices don't include subsidies, so prices for anyone earning 100 to 400% of the. Oh, here we go.
And concerns about Obamacare now, with word that premiums will skyrocket in some places, doubling, even tripling in some parts of the country next year. The hike's set to be announced in the coming months, just as the midterm election season heats up. All of this comes less than a week after Kathleen Sebelius, the Health and Human Services Secretary, tried to downplay fears of sticker shock, telling lawmakers that while premiums would increase in 2015, they would grow more slowly, she said, than in the past. Some in the insurance industry, though, are just not buying it, saying it runs counter to what they know. Joining us now, Bob Cusack, managing editor for The Hill. Elise Viebeck, for your organization, did a lot of work on this very topic, Bob. Found that some health insurance executives are saying, we're going to have to triple our rates for some of this coverage. Why are we not hearing more about that from Washington?
Well, a lot of the insurance guys were very frustrated with what Sebelius said, and this is going to vary widely from state to state. I think premiums in some states are going to skyrocket, in other states not so much. And then it's going to depend on these battleground states in the Senate. Democrats could get nervous in a variety of states if their premiums go up. And part of the reason is that young people are not signing up. The latest figures we have, only 25% have signed up. And this is a problem for the administration. That's why they're going all out using the March Madness brackets to get people to sign up. But this is the problem, is that premiums are going to go up. And the insurance guys say this is not political. This is based upon what they have seen from Obamacare, which is, of course, been a rocky rollout. And that's the problem. And that's why they're going to submit higher rates in the coming weeks and months.
Well, and there are a lot of mandatory coverages. I mean, the president is fond of talking about how people had substandard plans. That's what he called them, but I mean, they were apparently satisfactory to the people who owned them. The president is making the insurance companies provide more coverages for various kinds of things, and that costs money. I mean, there is no free lunch, right?
Yeah, that's right. And remember, the president on the campaign trail, he promised that the health plan that he would enact would save the average family $2,500. You did not hear that from Kathleen Sebelius last week. And part of the problem is that these political promises are very hard to implement. They had trouble passing this bill, barely got it to President Obama's desk. And the implementation, they haven't been able to keep a lot of those promises, and that's the problem. But you're right. These insurance plans, some people like them. Some people have been forced to leave on them. Others say, the insurance guys say, they want some of those guys in these new exchanges, but those exchanges are more expensive. So that's the problem.
So, all right, politically, how does it translate? I mean, are people going to be getting these much bigger bills ahead of the November elections?
Yes, they are. And they're not going to have to pay for this until next year. But these rates are being submitted to the various states. They can push back a little bit, but generally speaking, what we're hearing from the insurance guys who are experts in this is that they're going to be submitting higher rates. They want to be competitive, but at the same time, they have to be realistic. And so you're going to see this. And some of these Democrats in these states, whether it's Colorado, Virginia, Arkansas, Alaska, they've got to be bracing for this, because if the premiums go up big time, that's going to be a huge lift for the GOP candidate in those states. And
because the folks on the lower end of the economic scale who are, signing up for Obamacare, a lot of them, most of them get subsidies from the government, effectively, right? So
yes, that's right.
These price hikes are really going to hammer the middle class primarily.
It's definitely going to present some winners and losers, and people who have signed up this year may look at the price increases for next year, and they may not be able to afford it. And as I've said before, the losers are always louder than the winners, and that's the political problem for the White House and Senate Democrats.
All right, Bob Cusack.
All right, so
from
there
the
you
Hill
have it.
is
It sounds like we haven't even seen the high yet on the premiums, that it's going to be going up even more than what we're seeing them. They're submitting those to the different states now, different insurance agencies, and we'll see them probably sometime next year when we see our increases. And as he said, where's the $2,000 and some change that Obama promised everybody with the change in the insurance? One more issue, and this is from the Daily Caller. This is on Congresswoman Tennessee Rep. Diana Black. She says that Obama administration's most recent Obamacare rule change will result in insurance company keeping more profit while paying less for customer health care needs. Big Insurance helped write this thing, so it doesn't surprise me a bit. And it's in you. That would allow insurance companies to keep an additional 2% of their premiums for purposes other than medical care. HHS Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services quietly introduced the new rule on Friday, which relieves insurance companies of some of the damage about to be levied on them by Obamacare. The rules will take effect in 2015. That's it. And you'll see it. They said consumers will see it basically around 216. So Obamacare continues to be an issue for President Barack Obama. A lot of people were happy about getting it when they first heard about it. They said, hey, this is great free insurance. As I was pushing yesterday, we're all about an entitlement society. Want that free stuff? Let's give it to me. I'll take it all day long. And what they didn't realize is it's not going to be free, that you're going to lose a lot of your choices with doctors. You're not going to be able to go to many of the cancer centers if you end up with cancer. And the list goes on. So you got to love these lovely politicians, both Democrat and Republican. They just do not look out for the common folk. Next up, red lights. This is something interesting because I've gotten a ticket on a red light. I don't even remember going through this red light. It was up in St. Pete after a race. But this information came out, and I've been hearing a little bit of stuff about it. And let me see. Maybe I'll discuss it as I pull up the video in case I have some video problems. This is a video from the Rundown Live. So let's go to here. We'll go to this screen. And here we go. The Rundown Live, and here All right, so basically you got these red light cameras, and they're calling it a scam, and they had a judge throw out tickets yesterday, and they're thinking, hey, this could be major implications around the country. This article was put out by Mike Pexinski. Basically, he says in Norfolk, a judge decided to throw out the red light camera tickets for an entire intersection. This is the page, folks, I'm trying to get pulled up. He didn't believe it was fair and adequate and acquitted me of my charges, said David Butler. He showed the city, Norfolk, that somehow his attorney was able to show that they shortened the light time. Here, let's go ahead and play. They shortened the light time that is up there, and it coincided with just when the red lights were added. Physicists investigated the city's lights and found them at some points to be impossible to make through the intersection legally while it is yellow. If you're in the zone, you do not have the distance to stop, and you do not have the time to proceed. Then they talk about, was it just coincidental that the timing of the lights was shortened the day the camera started, or did it have anything to do with revenue? Here we go.
Red light camera investigation. Some scientists say it's physically impossible to get through some of Hampton Road.
Gotta love that internet connection.
Yellow lights without getting a ticket. And they prove it. News Channel 3 investigator Lori Simmons.
She tells us more in her News Channel 3 investigation.
It could be the biggest money-making scheme ever.
Every city in the world actually uses the same formula.
Red light cameras set with short yellow lights, making it physically impossible for drivers to avoid a ticket.
The physics are unbreakable. Yeah.
Brian Ceccarelli and Dr. Joseph Shovlin, both are physicists living in Raleigh, North Carolina. Together, they are leading the charge against the red light camera industry's cash cow, short yellows.
They're catching people who are not running the red lights on purpose. In many cases, it's beyond their control.
To explain the yellow light trap, Ceccarelli and Shovlin took News Channel 3 to an intersection in Raleigh with red light cameras. Drivers have a proper yellow light time.
And they have time to either stop without entering the intersection safely and comfortably, or else they have time to proceed through it before it turns red.
But in reality, it never happens because Ceccarelli and Shovlin say yellow lights, especially in turn lanes, are just too short for the distance needed to travel, creating what's called a dilemma zone for drivers.
If you're in this zone when the light turns yellow, you do not have the distance to stop, nor do you have the time to proceed while the light is still yellow. You will run a red light. You have no choice.
The root of the problem, they say, comes down to this formula, endorsed by the Institute of Traffic Engineers and used both in Virginia and North Carolina.
Because the formula it only works for straight through lanes.
Not left in turn lanes, yet traffic engineers still use it, inadvertently trapping drivers.
You're hosed. The light will turn red. Before you enter the intersection, you enter the intersection a fraction of a second, and the red light camera's got you.
So how did hundreds of thousands of traffic engineers around the country get bamboozled by this so-called incorrect formula?
This is Physics 101. You as an engineer should know this. I shouldn't have to explain Newton's laws of motion to you.
In 1959, the first yellow light formula was created by 3 physicists. But in 1965, Ceccarelli and Shovlin say that formula was miscopied into the Institute of Traffic Engineers handbook.
The Traffic Engineering Handbook is like the Bible that traffic engineers use. Once you get into the Traffic Engineering Handbook, they're like the words of God. The traffic engineers don't know any better. That's the problem. And so the red light camera companies come in and simply take advantage of the situation.
Like here in Hampton Roads, this 3-second left-hand turn yellow light at St. Paul's and Brambleton in Norfolk should really be 5.4 seconds, according to Ceccarelli and Shovlin. At the intersection of Jefferson and Oyster Point in Newport News, their 3.2-second yellow should be at least 6.1 seconds. And the 4.2-second yellow light at Independence and the Boulevard in Virginia Beach should be at least seconds.
The light is really like 2 or 3 seconds short of what it should be for turning traffic. And because Mother Nature doesn't like to be full that way, it'll force many, many drivers to run red lights.
While local cities, along with the red light camera companies, cash in.
For 40 years, the errors were there, but nobody knew about it. It's not until you put the red light cameras in that are running 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, catching every person who's a tenth of a second off.
Now, check
All right, so there you have it, folks. Now, anybody, this is a national program, so if anybody's ever had that kind of problem and received that type of ticket, like myself, you have now a new basis to fight it in court. You heard the interview. They've been using the wrong formula for years now, and it's in the traffic formula book. It was copied wrong, and so you can simply go in there and say, hey, we now have this court case, which I don't think they listed the court case on there. Here it is. No, let's just list some of the states that are in there. So, basically, it's unconstitutional. You guys can go ahead and fight it. If you have an attorney, they should be able to look it up. They can refer to this news story and go in there and fight that ticket. Fight that ticket because their revenue-generating machine scheme has been busted up. And you heard it here on the Francesco Abbruzzino show. So let's call in number 941-584-4874 if you want to discuss the red lights or Obamacare. This next one, I first saw this next guy, and his name is Harry Dent Jr. I saw him on the Alex Jones show, and I was listening to him, and he was giving some dire predictions for the market. Well, they weren't totally dire. In the beginning, he said it'll go up to 17,000, but it's going to turn, and that's going to happen in the next few weeks before plummeting down to 6,000 by 2016. This is a guy that is known for predicting the market. He's pretty good at it. He's got a reputation for it. Harry Dent also is the author of Market Observer. And I thought, well, maybe he's on Alex Jones. Let me see if there's something else out there. So I started looking around, and lo and behold, I found out he was on MSNBC. And he was on there discussing it with those guys. So I have that video, and he's, like I said, he's expecting the bubble crash, just like he's saying that gold is in a bubble, which I've always thought. It shot up to 17, 18, whatever market was, and now I think it's at 12 or 13. He's expecting it to go even lower, and they're saying silver is where it's at. Why I thought this was interesting was not to go all financial on you, but was just to show you that there is potentially a bubble out there, to make sure you're aware of it and you're take the appropriate actions. Could he be wrong? Sure, he could be wrong, but you just want to be aware of it, and you're watching all indicators that are out there. So let's go to this CNBC interview with him and listen to him. And, it's just another viewpoint. See if it's something that you subscribe to. See if it's something you may want to pay attention to. And here we go. And you know what? I say all the time. Oops, I didn't want that one. I wanted this screen. I should be talking, pulling up the article as I'm talking, because it takes so long with this FiOS network that brags about being one of the fastest around. So here it is. Harry Dent predicts most dangerous investing period. And again, this guy's pretty much world acclaimed. He's known for being able to predict the markets. Let's see. Come on, CNBC. Come through for me and pop up. He's interviewed by Ron Insana, and he shares these investment strategies. And there you go. We have a lovely commercial. All right, so he thinks he sees another correction crash that is larger than the last one. I think it will be the most dangerous period in a person's life if they're investing. Fundamental problems plaguing global economies is shifting demographics, an aging workforce soon to retire, outnumbering younger workers, thereby draining government entitlements. Despite government stimulus, younger workers tend to spend less, too. Generations spend, and they don't. And here we go. Oops, need some volume there, don't we, folks?
And these are bubbles. They've taken us to new highs, and every crash has taken us to new lows. So this is hitting right at that trend line, about 17,000, maybe several weeks from now, where we would hit this, and then the next downside target would be around 6,000. So this is actually a big pattern.
By when?
It's easy to spot.
By when?
By 2016.
So that's
it takes 2 to 3 years for a major crash. Yeah, that is soon.
Ron and Sana, what do you say
I think
to
this will be the most dangerous period in people's lives in investing.
Ron?
Michelle, well, I mean, obviously, Harry and I have not agreed on this topic for quite some time. In fact, he was predicting a crash last fall, if I recall correctly. But I'm a secular bull on U.S. stocks. I mean, obviously, I think this year is going to be more difficult than last. I think, we'll probably face a 10 to 20% correction somewhere along the way. But when you look at the economic fundamentals of the U.S., both in relative terms compared to the rest of the world and in absolute terms, where we're seeing the carbon revolution, manufacturing renaissance, technological innovation, I still think in the longer haul, the U.S. looks quite good.
Mm-hmm. Harry, you're based on a demographic issue, your opinions, correct,
Yeah.
as opposed to a lot of the other things that Ron was talking about?
Yes, and demographics have been peaking in one country and region after the next. It started with Japan, and we called that downturn in '89. Almost nobody saw that. Then it hit the U.S. after 2007, and we're still fighting that, and it's going to get worse in the U.S. But what I'm looking at countries like Germany and other countries in southern Europe that have demographic cliffs in spending just as bad or worse than Japan's in the 90s. That's not something you can see in today's economy.
I want to explain what a demographic cliff is. You're saying that the working population, the size of it peaks, and then after that you have an economy that's dominated by people who are elderly and therefore living on Social Security, not actually producing and productive members of society, right?
It's actually earlier than that. People enter the workforce on average age 20, spend more until age 46 when their kids start to leave the nest, and then they start saving for retirement, and then they retirement. So the peak in spending is, the boom from 83 to 2007 was a 46-year lag on the rising baby boom birth index. It's that simple. Generations spend, and then they don't. Governments are fighting that with massive stimulus, and it shows why the economy is so weak with so much stimulus. Demographics is the only way you can explain that. So the fundamentals are not good.
So Ron,
I agree with Ron. They're better than in a lot of other countries, but they're not good.
Ron, what are you doing right here?
Well, look, as I say, we're in a secular bull market, so I'm in the process of building out a longer-term portfolio that is, largely comprised of equities that I happen to like, and then, we trade around and hedge and, and engage in some opportunistic,
How much cash have you got? Are you holding on to stuff in case there's better opportunity?
I'm still in the process of building out a portfolio, so it's not an accurate measure. I think what's going to happen is it'll be about 60% cash deployed only in equities, 40% for other things in the type of portfolio that's being run. So there's some opportunistic trades and there's some hedging that we keep cash for. But over time, I still think, I'm not in the crash camp in any way, shape, or form. I think this year could be frustrating. I think it'd be choppy and sloppy like what we've seen all year long. I don't do demographic analysis, and I don't view that as necessarily a proper way to approach the stock market. So Harry and I have always disagreed on that.
All right, so there you have it. Who do you side with here? Do you side with Harry or Ron and Sana? You know what? I'm looking at both of them. I don't know. I don't think it'll go down to 6,000. I think that's a big drastic. I do think it has bubbled. I don't think the economy is as rosy as many of the government and investors pointed. Remember, they have an objective, and their objective is to get your money and invest it. The government wants you believing the economy is in full bloom. I don't see that. I'm down here with the common folk. I don't see it. I don't see it in Italy. From when I left there 5 years ago, that place has gone to hell in a handbasket. So I don't know if I'm on the same camp as Ron or Harry. I think I'm somewhere in the middle. I do see some kind of drop. Yes, I did have a series license before. In a previous life, I was an investor. This is back to an issue that we discussed. I brought up yesterday. I've actually brought it up a couple times. I brought it up when the grid was attacked. Then I brought it up, I think, yesterday, and I'm bringing it up again today because I did some research on this, and I found out, I started looking around on the net. This issue's been going on for a while, and I thought, well, let me check the news videos, and it's been going on since like 2010. The video I'm going to show you is from 2012, where the individual's on there and he's discussing the concerns that the government had at the time about security at our electrical grids. And the amazing thing is even over all this time, nothing has been done to make them more secure. Make sure the substations are secure. As I told you yesterday, now if you just hey, 9 out of the 55,000 electrical substations, you could basically knock the electric out for 18 months. Let me try pulling that up while we're discussing it here. Let's see, electric grid, here we go. There's got to be an easier way, that's how I say it. All right, let's see if this starts right up. There we go.
And
this is from CNN.
The problem I discussed last year that is still keeping me up at night, and that is the possibility, the risk of a long-term, large-scale outage of the electric power grid. Secretary Panetta has said that the next Pearl Harbor could be a cyber Pearl Harbor, an attack on our electric power grid. But there are also plenty of natural hazards out there, geomagnetic disturbances, severe earthquakes, which is the New Madrid fault, that could bring down the electric grid for weeks to months. Now, in some respects, in the Department of Defense, we've been making some progress. So last Thursday, Secretary Panetta signed out a new initiative that radically changes the way we're prepared to provide defense support to civil authorities, to provide life-saving and life-sustaining capabilities that FEMA and the Department of Defense, and ultimately the President, would expect us to provide. We've changed our whole business plan, if you will, on how to provide defense support to civil authorities. There's a second problem that we've hardly made a dent in, and that's what I want to focus in on today. And that is the threat to Department of Defense mission assurance. The Department of Defense depends on U.S. facilities and infrastructures in order to be able to operate abroad. And to make those operations function, we depend on the electric grid and all of the other critical infrastructure that needs electrons to function. Our adversaries, state and non-state, are not stupid. They're clever and adaptive. So rather than taking us on the pointy end of the spear, our fully deployed forces abroad ready to fight the war, there is a risk they'll adopt a profoundly asymmetric strategy, reach around and attack us here at home, the critical infrastructure that is not owned by the Department of Defense, that has the authority of DHS and the Department of Energy to help build resilience in that those critical infrastructure sectors, but on which the Department of Defense is profoundly dependent.
All right, so there you have it. And this was put out 7/27 of 2012. Yet you still don't see the upgrades in the security or any legislation going out saying, hey, electric companies, you guys have to secure your grid. And it's not just the electric companies. If you've watched the show a few times, you might have seen where I was talking about a nuclear plant where the zone was compromised. An individual had gone in there with a gun, not sure how he did that, into a nuclear plant area. He was not far from the reactor, so something has to be done. It says our key infrastructure, including the internet and the power grid, is far more vulnerable than most people would dare to imagine. Simply take for granted that the lights will always be on and the internet will always be functioning. If you knock out, like I said, just 9 of the 55,000 substations, the electric will go out and knock the whole grid down. For up to 18 months, it says the entire United States grid would be down 18 months or longer. What's surprising about this report is that they would put it out so that everyone knows about it now. And now the enemies of the state are out there wondering, which 9 grids? Let's just target those. Not unlike the individual did in California not too long ago, a few months ago, which they still have not caught that individual, and they think there was up to 17 people. You heard him about the threat of our electrical grid, and that is one thing that they said that Iran will do, an EMT or something, where it'll just knock it all out. And I know that's part of our military strategy also. So what would it look like without any power for a long period of time? There would be no heat. There would be no water would not be able to be pumped. Your computer would not work. No internet, no phone, no TV, no radio. No ATM machine, so no money. There would be no banking. Your debit card and credit card would not work. So imagine that, folks. You can't get to the bank. Your credit card doesn't work. In the United States, that would really cripple any individual because every large majority live paycheck to paycheck. An even greater majority live credit card by credit card and do not have any cash on hand. Most people would be unable to do their jobs, so they're not getting the money. commerce would come to a standstill, hospitals would not be able to function, you would quickly start to run out of medicine. There's a film that they said is very interesting that you may want to capture. You can Google this. If you want to get an idea of how quickly society would descend into chaos, just watch the documentary American Blackout sometime. They say it will chill your bones. And I read this today and I'm like, oh, I got to check that documentary out. I have not had the time to yet. Right now, our power grid is exceedingly vulnerable, and all the experts know this, but there's little that is being done to actually protect it. As you saw, that interview was from 2 years ago, and still nothing is being done. You don't hear about it, and the major media is not talking about it. Major media is not even talking about the attack on the one grid in California that brought it down. There it is here. The Wall Street Journal's Rebecca Smith reported that a former Federal Energy Regulatory Commission chairman is acknowledging for the first time that a group of snipers shot up Silicon Valley substation for 19 minutes last year, knocking out 17 transformers before slipping away into the night. This was their most significant domestic terrorism they've had to date. At the scene, authorities found more than 100 fingerprint-free shell casings, so no fingerprints anywhere, and little piles of rocks that appeared to have been left in advance by a scout to tell the attackers where to go and get the best shots. A new report by Senator Tom Coburn details widespread cybersecurity breaches in the federal government, despite billions of dollars spending on to secure it. Approximately 40% of the breaches go undetected and highlight serious vulnerabilities. Data on the nation, this is on the dams. The data on the nation's weakest dams include those which could kill Americans if they failed, were stolen by a malicious intruder. So somebody's out there. They know where the grids are. They know where the dams are. So if you ever go to war, let's say, let's say Russia, since Obama seems to be over there just trying to do everything he can to get us in a World War III, do you think they're going to target those dams? Do you think they're going to target our electrical grid? I would do that. It'll bring the whole world into chaos, especially with us Americans. We're an entitlement society. We're not used to doing things out on our own. We need governments to sit there and hold our hand. If we don't have any water, what do we do? I can see chaos ensuing pretty fast there. Let's see. Unrest in the Ukraine. There's a Rush view on punishing Putin. So let's go ahead to that video, and then we'll look at some of this stuff. Not a lot of new activity there. You did have... Yeah, I don't have it on here. I'm going to do the Navy base first. I have it on my other form, where the Russians went in and overtook a Navy base. It's hard for me to pronounce it, but let's go ahead and take a look at that. We'll do this screen, and there he is. Take Ukraine Navy base. This is from Yahoo, and it just occurred today. Ukraine's demanding that they turn over the Navy captain within 3 hours, and that was a couple hours ago, or they will come in firing. And let's see. This is a story that just came out, and I didn't print anything on it, and there we go. So it's called Sevastopol. Russian troops and unarmed men stormed Ukraine's naval headquarters in the Crimean port of Sevastopol on Wednesday and raised a Russian flag in a tense but peaceful takeover that signals Russia's intent to neutralize the situation. They were Russian soldiers and so-called self-defense units of the mainly armed volunteers supporting them across the Black Sea. So there you have it. So it is intensifying a bit over there. The next story goes into the rush to view
There
on
is
punishing
something
Putin.
that Obama and the European Union could do. It's a very easy way to punish Putin in a way that would really matter. They could kick him out of the IMF and the G8, which would mean it would cost Russia more to do business with the rest of the world. They could do that. He's not going to do that. The fact that he's sanctioning all these individuals, they don't care, folks. They think they have to make it look like you do. They have to make it look like they care because they know you do. He doesn't care. Reducing America's standing in the world was the objective. It's the original Limbaugh theorem. If Obama wants this nation taught a lesson, if this nation's got to be brought down to size, it's not just going to happen domestically, economically, it's going to happen internationally as well. Remember, Obama, he doesn't believe in American exceptionalism. He doesn't believe in any of the things about the United States being policeman of the world or being the outpost of liberty or freedom in the world. He's never believed that. He doesn't think we've ever been a legitimate superpower. He's been of the belief that that's been illegitimate. And
so that's basically it. That's the rush bow on it. And, he's got a valid point, folks. They basically laughed at Obama when he said, well, I'm imposing sanctions against these people. One of them came out and said, look, I've never been to the U.S. I have no investments there. I have no reason understanding why he chose me, but who cares? The State Duma has passed a motion suggesting that the U.S. and EU extend the freshly introduced sanctions to all Russian MPs rather than a limited group. Go all out. They're daring them. They're saying step it up. And it was supported by a unanimous vote. Speech MP Mikhail Markelov called for a move by the U.S. Department, President Obama, and the European Union as an absurd attempt and suggested that the U.S. be punished by the lower house members. Muzzolina, the decision is puzzling. This is the guy that's never been in the U.S., has no assets there. He's like, it's puzzling to me how I got on the list. But it's idiocy. Why would he just do sanctions against these upper echelon guys there in the government instead of doing hardcore sanctions like you would do against Iran, Syria, any other country, Korea, the North Korea, I mean. And, why aren't you taking a harder line? You're sanctioning people that don't have money here and that don't plan on traveling here and could care less. It makes us look like a joke. And just shows how his international skills and negotiation skills, everything about his international relations handling is just absurd. And they're laughing at us. They were making jokes about it over in Russia. They say Russia is prepared to fight World War III against the United States, but it's not going to be with conventional weapons. It's going to be against the dollar. Now, Rushbo had a good thing there. Kick them out of the G8, which I think they're doing. IMF, kick them out. I don't know if that will have a big impact, but that's more meaningful than saying we're doing sanctions on Joe Blow, the guy that runs your agricultural department. Kevin Freeman, he's a global financial analyst with expertise in financial warfare and terrorism. He warned that Russia, along with their allies like China, could cripple the U.S. financial system. The real risk, if we go after them, is with the economic weapons. And we're teetering now, folks. We're making all this money, printing money up left and right. And we're doing that because everything tracks a dollar, and we can. If people were to stop doing that, take the money out of the dollar, we'd have real issues. The threat of economic warfare is nothing new, Freeman said. He believes the economic crisis was the result of a purposeful attack on the U.S. financial markets by state actor or financial terrorist. Sanctions announced Monday against 7 of Russia's wealthiest oligarchs and politicians may not be enough to stop Putin. You think? Some Russian leaders have even joked that these are insignificant measures from a weak U.S. administration. There's no doubt that Russia has been thinking long and hard about how to disrupt U.S. power and the value of the dollar in the global market. I mentioned something yesterday where they were trying to team up with China when it came to Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. the past 5 years, Putin has promised that he would take America's role in the leading global financial mammoth away, vowing to create alternatives to the IMF and World Bank. Last week, the Wall Street Journal reported a significant drop in foreign central banks' treasury bonds at the Federal Reserve. And I said, what, 100 billion, I think Russia took back yesterday or last week. Earlier this month, Kremlin economic aide Sergei Glazyev made Russia's intentions for economic warfare very clear, saying an attempt to announce sanctions would end in a crash for the financial system of the U.S., which would cause the end of the domination of the United States in the global financial system. So, it's getting heated, folks. Not a lot of heat out there today, but, you know, they can do a lot of things to us. We can do a lot of things to them. We can do tick for tack like we did with sanctions. Well, we'll sanction your senators. Well, we'll sanction your oligarchs. You know, when's it going to stop? Next one is on Syria is heating up. Wait. Oh, yeah, this is just something real quick. I think everybody knows this, how the Kremlin basically invoked the suffering of the Russian people and narrative of constant betrayals of the West. Putin declared Tuesday that Russia was within its rights to reclaim Crimea, then signed a treaty that did so. He compared the move in independence declaration to Kosovo in 2008 and the reunification of Germany in 1990, both which were supported by the United States. Russia is also facing an explosion from we already know that. Putin also said that Russia would always be ready to stand up for the rights of fellow Russians. Our Western partners have crossed the line, Putin said. We have every reason to think the notorious policy of confining Russia pursued in the 18th, 19th, and 20th centuries continue today. Venezuela is heating back up. A lot of people out there say that the Americas had a role in encouraging this by attacking their currency and driving it down and driving up things, essential items such as a price of bread from, let's say, $1 to $5. And that's brought on an uprising, and that's what a lot of people are suggesting that we should do to the Russians with the ruble. So the protest heated up again yesterday, so let's go ahead and take a look. I got a film on that one. Hold on. Venezuela, here we go. And
clashes break out in the Venezuelan capital Caracas over the weekend as troops stormed Plaza Altamira, a square that has provided one of the backdrops to escalating tensions in the country. Following weeks of demonstrations against President Nicolas Maduro, troops evicted protesters who had turned the affluent square in the east of the city into a stronghold.
Le voy a dar unas horas apenas a los asesinos.
I'm going to give those assassins that have taken over Altamira Plaza and Francisco de Miranda Avenue just a few hours, and if they don't clear out today, I'm going to clear those spaces with public force.
Under orders from the president, National Guard soldiers fired tear gas and turned water cannons on protesters, who retaliated with rocks and petrol bombs. Events over the weekend follow 6 weeks of unrest in the country, predominantly led by students and militant opposition leaders, with 28 people having been killed, more than 300 injured, and over 1,000 being arrested. So what are the opposition's demands and grievances? Well, it boils down to several factors, including levels of crime in the country. Venezuela has the 5th highest murder rate in the world, with protests initially being prompted by demands for increased security after a female student alleged she was the victim of an attempted rape. Elsewhere, the rate of inflation, which currently stands at an annual rate of 56%, also shows the alarming state of the economy, while perhaps the most pressing daily concern for ordinary Venezuelans is the problem of food shortages, with people struggling to get hold of everyday items. And to add to the list of grievances is the presence of Cuban advisors in the country's armed forces, forces and other institutions, provided in return for the tens of thousands of barrels of oil that Venezuela provides to the Caribbean island every day. But despite the worsening situation, it's not just the opposition who are filling the streets. Maduro has his supporters as well. On Sunday, thousands also marched in the capital in praise of the government's food welfare policies. He also enjoys the support of the armed forces and benefits from a divided opposition. Furthermore, despite their veracity, the numbers of protesters are far fewer than during demonstrations against his predecessor Hugo Chavez a decade ago. So, despite the turbulence that has rocked the country since February, the consensus appears to be that the president is in little danger of being toppled by a so-called Venezuelan spring. And while he is coming under international pressure, US Secretary of State John Kerry described it as a terror campaign last week. Given his rhetoric over the weekend, it looks as if Maduro, for now, is remaining defiant.
All right, so there you have it. Venezuela, like I said, the U.S. basically went in there and launched a currency war. Like the video said, inflation skyrocketed. The basic essentials are no longer available, and people are upset from the economic viewpoint. And then there's the violence viewpoint, with crime being up, which is generally associated with the demographics of people that are downtrodden and suffering, losing jobs, not having any money. The crime kicks up. Next is Syria, and this is part of my, I go in sections, folks. I did Obamacare. This is my unrest, global unrest section. So the next one is on Syria, and this is something I have not heard on the major media, but it just came out, it came out yesterday, and I haven't really heard anything. Washington has closed the Syrian embassy and 2 of its consulates. They've told the Syrian diplomats that they must leave the country after Damascus decided to call back its mission last week, following the announcement that Syrian embassy has suspended its provisions of consular services and in consideration for the atrocities of Assad regime has committed against the Syrian people. Syria's own decision was allegedly provoked by the U.S., which made it increasingly difficult to obtain accreditation for new diplomats since the internal conflict broke out in 2011. So let's check that out. I think I got a video on that one. I know you guys are enjoying these videos, right? I hope you are. Hopefully you're getting some new information out there. And, I'll go into my diatribe in a second here. Let's see. There we go. This is from RT. So just remember, RT is a little biased. They're with Assad. They're pro-government. Whereas the United States is backing the protesters in its own... Hold on. Yep, here we go. Okay. Play.
Thanks for staying with us here on RT International. The United States has announced it's suspending diplomatic relations with the Syrian government. The Syrian embassy in Washington, along with several consulates across the country, have been closed, with diplomats and all non-American staff told to leave. RT's Marina Portnaya looked at what's behind the move.
The Obama administration has ordered the Syrian government to suspend its diplomatic and consular missions in the U.S., and that includes an embassy in Washington, D.C., and honorary consulates in Michigan and Texas. The White House says that this move comes in response to a decision made by Syrian President Bashar al-Assad to suspend consular services for Syrians living in the U.S. In a statement, U.S. Special Envoy to Syria, Daniel Rubinstein, said that we have determined it is unacceptable for individuals appointed by that regime, referring to the Assad government, to conduct diplomatic or consular operations in the United States, unquote. Now, while Washington's ties with Damascus continue deteriorating, the U.S. says it will continue assisting the Syrian opposition seeking to overthrow the Assad government. Some would call that quite a complicated endeavor, considering that extremists tied to terrorist organizations are fighting alongside the opposition in Syria. Now, Syria's bloody civil war has waged on for 3 years. In that time, a reported 140,000 people have been killed and 6 million displaced. Washington's latest move comes as the Syrian government has been accelerating its chemical weapons disarmament, which is expected to be fully completed later this year. That deal, of course, struck in cooperation with Russia. No telling now how the Syrian government is going to react to Washington's latest move.
Right, to talk more on this, I'm joined live by Middle East journalist Karen Lukefeld, who recently returned from Syria. Good to have you with us, ma'am. You're live on RT International. Do you have any idea why the U.S. have decided to do this now and not earlier?
Well, I think, first of all, Daniel Rubenstein, he...
we don't need to listen to that part, but you guys get the gist of it. Take for that. And that's some emotional video there. You saw the poor kid. Can you imagine living in that country? Could you imagine living in those circumstances? Just a few years ago, it was not like that in Syria. Syria was a great place to live. And it's amazing how how it'll transition over something so ridiculous as what sparked that whole thing there, or what sparked the issue over in the Crimea with Russia. I think I was going to discuss something on Syria. I forget what I was going to say. Okay. So the GOP can fight back against the Obama broad executive overreach, which they've had concerns with his overreach, and I've reported on it several times, and major media has too. The president's has President Obama impunity come to an end after 5 years of floating the letter and spirit of the law in an increasing brazen fashion? Congressional Republicans have started to ramp up their rhetoric about Obama's lawlessness. Now, I must say that executive privileges have been taken by all the presidents. What makes this grievous is that his are more on major issues that we probably should have some check and balance and have the legislators in there and have our government work the way it was meant to work, instead of having one person coming off as a king and dictating everything. It involves laws ranging from healthcare to immigration to privacy to technology to social issues to national security and more. Last week, Majority Leader Cantor released a 33-page report detailing 40 separate examples of him breaking down the rule law under the Obama admin. You can see that at majorityleader.gov/the Imperial Presidency. Ted Cruz has also issued a 3-part series of reports on this matter called The Legitimate Legal Limit, a major focus of Cantor's report on the administration rewriting the Obamacare. A lot of people are concerned with how he's come in and given out several waivers for large companies. He's doing stuff now with the unions, and this just, you can't come in here and pass a law, shove a law through, and then go in and change different line items to appease your constituents. Another, when he did that 50, the waiver on the 50 over 50 employees the other day, that was to try to lessen the impact it would have on the Democratic candidates that are running in the midterms, which you just can't have that. He's politicizing it. He cited one of the clearest examples of Obama's executive power grab is on immigration, when the president in summer 2012, in a Rose Garden speech alongside the Department of Homeland Security, Janet Napolitano used executive authority to create the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals program, which granted executive amnesty to illegal aliens who say they were minors when they entered the country. Abuse of executive power. Senator Jeff Sessions, he has issues with more than 70 instances which Obama administration flouted the law on immigration matters. It goes on and on and on. And, we've heard all this. We know the Republicans have had issues. Democrats have had issues when Republican presidents do it. Who's right, who's wrong, I don't know. I don't like the extent that I've seen it with President Barack Obama. But, George Bush was no angel either. So, next thing, we're getting out of the executive orders. That was a quick one. This is one that my wife came across, and she showed it to me. And it's on the increased costs that we are going to be picking up due to kosher meals being served to Jewish inmates. And this is in Florida. This came out from Fox 13. Gone are the days when prisoners were given just bread and water. Let's try to pull that up as I'm doing this. Kosher meals. Here we go. Florida is now under a federal court order to offer kosher meals to Jewish inmates. It's a little over $2 a meal for a regular prison meal. However, with the kosher meals, it's going to cost $7, according to Bradley. The Orange Park Republican says that he can add up to more than $40 million a year to feed these guys kosher, according to the estimates provided by the DOC. Where's my volume control? Let's see. Taxpayer dollars that could be spent educating our kids, paying for teachers, improving the roads, and better medical care for the Floridians. Is this it here? No, GMP. How many commercials are they going to have on this thing? Oh my gosh! All right. And the thing too is we're currently in a few days or a couple months. I forget when it is. Okay, here we go.
Visitors were given just bread and water. Now inmates get a variety of foods, and some of it very special. But for some, that's not good enough. And as Fox 13's investigative reporter Doug Smith is going to show you now, there is a food fight going on in Florida's prison system, and we could all end up paying for it.
Behind prison walls, inmates don't have a lot of input. For the most part, they take what's given to them. When it comes to meals, they are putting up a fight and have now found support in court.
This is a very frustrating issue.
The issue is religious meals for inmates. Florida is now under court order to start serving kosher food to Jewish inmates. A costly change.
It's a little over $2 a meal for a regular prison meal. It's around $7 for a kosher meal,
which can add up to more than $40 million a year, according to estimates from the Department of Correction given to Senator Rob Bradley.
I am stunned by the numbers. It's incredible that it costs this much.
It's his job to keep track of the numbers as chairman of the Appropriations Subcommittee that oversees prisons.
And that's taxpayer dollars that could be spent educating our kids, paying our teachers more, improving our roads, providing better medical care for Floridians.
Well, religious rights don't stop at the prison gate.
Chaplain Gary Friedman is the chairman of Jewish Prisoner Services International.
This has been going on with Florida now for at least 12 years that I've been involved with it. And it's gone back and forth, and it's long overdue.
Friedman lives in Seattle, Washington. He says his home state and a few dozen others have offered religious meals for years, and not just kosher.
I'm concerned about the fact that we might find ourselves having to tailor meals to every single religious experience and taste.
Which is exactly what's now happening.
And by that same token, we believe that they should offer the same accommodation to Muslim inmates and actually all inmates, regardless of their religious affiliation.
Hassan Shibli says the Council on American Islamic Relations has made this issue a priority in Florida in 2014.
And the cost? I mean, frankly, it's something we can afford, I think, as a society to ensure that people are properly fed.
So what is properly fed?
For Muslim prisoners, the kind of meal they can eat is basically food which has been slaughtered properly with the name of God by a practicing Jew, Muslim, or Christian, and that doesn't include any pork in it.
It's called halal meals.
Halal food is actually about half the cost, if not a third of the cost of kosher food. So if they can afford to offer kosher food to Jewish inmates, we certainly believe they can offer halal food.
Well, you didn't see that coming, did we, folks?
These are individuals who have been convicted of a crime and are serving their debt to society. And so this isn't supposed to be a spa hotel experience.
The emergency court order just went into effect requiring Florida to provide religious meals, but it's not over. The issue is scheduled for trial this summer in August, so the state does plan to fight it, John.
All right, so that's basically it's going to cost $40,000 extra for us. Sorry about my dog barking. He was driving me crazy. have a yakker dog that goes crazy and barks nonstop over the most mundane things, and he was having a fit back there. I'm like, Hunt, can you get him? All right, so that's the $40,000 for the Jewish, and now you saw that coming down the line. The Muslims are like, whoa, wait up 1 second. Now we want a special mill. And when does it end? When does being politically correct end? They're prisoners. You know, they broke the law. Shove them in there. Give them bread and water like they used to do in the brig in the military. I'm not for this. I think it's ridiculous that we're going to these great levels to appease these individuals. This next one is on kids and victimization of children. I'm calling this segment. It's on two issues. One is on a porn ring, and the other one is on strip searching a child. We'll do the strip searching his child first. And basically, a mother was told by a federal court this week that school officials in Pennsylvania told her that they were within their rights to strip search her daughter, asserting that the girl does not have constitutional rights because she is in a private school. Have you ever heard that? That's crazy. Where the heck are they getting this from? Hershey School in Harrisburg ordered that the girl, they're going to call her CW, remove her shirt because they suspected she had a cell phone on her person. This is a cost-free private co-educational home and school for the pre-K, hence they're saying you will lose all your rights, which is ridiculous. You know, I understand when I went in the military, I lost all my rights and I was basically owned by the military. You're considered a piece of their property. But that doesn't apply to a private school just because your education's free. I can understand following certain guidelines and certain rules, but come on. The court complaint states that the school nurse touched CW all over her body, including her chest, filling for the smartphone. Guess what, folks? No smartphone was found. The kid was being upfront and honest. After the strip search, the child was visibly upset, crying and shaking. When Hoyts called the student home supervisor, she was told that CW does not have constitutional rights because she is in a private school and that the school is backed up by the Derry County Police Department. Do you buy that? I mean, how the hell can they come up with that one? So we got to watch, hopefully they're going to take action and win that suit because you can't continue to allow such unconstitutional acts to occur. Poor little kid. She's probably traumatized by that. This one is another porn ring, and I just hate to see these porn rings. You see them constantly. We just had one here in Sarasota where the officers will go online and pose as a child. And somehow, I'm not sure the process, but the individual gets invited over or offers to come over and with the intent to have sex with the minor. They just busted a bunch. They've done it a couple times. Sheriff Tom Knight does a great job with that. Yesterday, when I was covering the release of FOIA documentation with the Pinellas County Sheriff, they were basically going through the same process. I applaud that. We need to get these sick freaks off the road. On my local media page, as soon as I get all the updates on the sexual offender, so on my Venice Scoop, my Northport Scoop, Inglewood Scoop, or my Taking a Bite Out of Crime in Sarasota County page, whenever I get the offender updates of their addresses, I put it out there with what they were basically guilty of and charged with, and I let everyone know this is the person. And in one of those cases, it was a friend that I graduated from high school. One of the guys was he's just a nasty, he's a predator. He was basically living across the street from her. She didn't know. She knew he just moved in. She didn't know he was a predator. She has I think her daughter's 8 now. She has a 17-year-old daughter and a son. But she was concerned, and rightfully so. Now, many of the state will say, well, all you got to do is sign up for the notification, which a lot of people don't take that extra step. One thing that I liked about Facebook and why I started my local page some 5 years ago was that I like the fact that information just pops up and I can see it. I don't have to go out searching for it. That's one of the beauties of Facebook that I love. Same with my Educate, Inspire, and Change page. You don't have to go out and look for it. I'm getting it all on my page, and I'm putting it all into one page, okay? And I do that for my media and taking crime out of Sarasota and all that stuff. This one is a feds say record number of children victimized by a massive online porn ring. Federal prosecutors in the United States have charged 14 individuals with involvement on online child pornography ring, where thousands of explicit images and videos of minors as young as 3 were shared over the web. Sickos, right? I mean, what is wrong with these freaks? Operation Rain Roundtable was called. A 27-year-old Louisiana man has been charged with operating child exploitation enterprises, according to the press release on this issue. And they go more into it. If you want to read more about this, it's at rt.com. The title is Feds Say Record Number of Children Victimized by Massive Online Porn Rings. You see this stuff all the time. I don't know what, a lot of times I see these guys commit these crimes and they seem to be out right away. A lot of times it's because the children and the parents don't want to go through the trial and all the heartache that it can bring up and all the bad memories. So I'm not sure what the answer is. I think they should be thrown in jail and kept in there. But we know that's not going to happen. I know that's probably not realistic with the way our judicial system works. So what say you? I forgot I had the number. You know what? I don't even know how I'm going to do call-in. I have received some calls. No idea how I'm going to do it because I still have all this stuff. And I never finish my show completing everything I bring in because I got so much information. There's so much information flowing out there that I want to share and discuss, and it just takes up so much time. Well, that's the tragedy of being in this position. Okay, Obama. This is Obama. He's bypasses Congress to put out a new tax. They're calling it the imperialist tax plot on the world. Let's go ahead and cue that video in case we have issues with it first. And here it is. It's the FATCA. And basically what they want to do is go after Americans that are on foreign territory. And they're basically extending the reach of the IRS into this whole new area. Here we go. This isn't a satire. It's pretty comical in the beginning how they act.
Good afternoon, and welcome to the United States Treasury Department November FATCA Q&A session for every non-U.S. bank in the world and every non-U.S. country in the world. In honor of Obama's Open Government Initiative, we're going to be taking questions today in instant message format.
So, to kick it off, what is FATCA?
Well, basically, we don't like the way that you have been handling taxes for American citizens in all of your countries. So, we're going to put the United States Internal Revenue Service in charge. If your banks choose not to cooperate with us, we're going to impose a 30% withholding tax on any activities undertaken by that bank and any of that bank's customers, whether they're American citizens or not.
Wait, what? How can you do that?
15 aircraft carriers, that's how. You're living in our world, bitches. Get used to it.
Okay. Can you talk more about what withholding tax means?
Oh, sure. It's just withholding. It's a lot like U.S. income tax withholding, except you don't get any services in return, and there are no refunds.
That sounds terrible. How do we avoid this?
It's easy. All you have to do is just give us any information you have about accounts for U.S. citizens.
Oh, sorry, there's one more thing. Actually, because you're going to have to prove to us that you don't have any U.S. accounts, you're probably just going to have to give us all of the information from all of your accounts.
What? That's ridiculous.
Why? We're great with private information. Just ask Edward Snowden.
How can you possibly think this is okay?
Because we own your asses. Free rides over. Do you have any idea how much it pisses us off when people don't do things our way? We've been carrying the free world for 50 goddamn years, and it is time we got paid.
This seems very familiar, but there's absolutely no way this works with our privacy legislation.
Oh, that's not a problem. For rich countries like yourselves, we are happy to sign an agreement under which you agree to force your banks to give you the information which you will then send to us.
I guess that's possible. You will, of course, give us information on our citizens' bank accounts in the U.S., right?
Oh, well, yeah, that's certainly what the agreement will say.
But good luck getting our bankers and their congressmen to agree to that.
Oh mein Gott, diese Amerikaner spinnen doch.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch that.
Oh yeah, that reminds me of something. All of your banks are going to have to sign individual agreements with the IRS in English, and then fill out a whole bunch of forms with us in English.
But we have got tons of American legal and accounting professionals who are eager to work with you.
For just $500 an hour.
But what about emerging economies like us? Our tax ministry and banks can't really afford this sort of thing. I mean, Africa's growing and all, but this could really slow us down.
Well, then get used to only banking in Africa. See, banking is a rich man's game, and we kind of like the idea of
and I thought I'd share it, and it was entertaining enough to drive the point home about this fat cut tax. You know, a lot of Americans will sit here and say, well, it doesn't impact me. What do I care? If they can do this to Americans abroad, you should care because they're Americans. My sisters are Americans. They're living abroad in Italy. So this could essentially, they could go in because they have passports and say, we want all their information on their bank accounts over there. Is that right? And in return, we're not going to give them any services. They're going to have to pay us all these taxes, but we're not going to offer anything in return. It's just a grab for money. It's disgusting that we're doing some of the stuff that we're seeing happening out there. I didn't think many of you were aware of the fat cut tax, so I thought I would introduce it on this show. This next one, we're going to cover a segment on gun control. Let me see where my time is. Okay. This is one where this is a video over 40,000 sheriffs over 40 Oklahoma sheriffs walk out of the Capitol building after a senator demands that they remove their firearms. He did not want them in the building. The name of the senator who demanded the 40-plus sheriffs remove their guns was not provided. The sheriff were accustomed to visiting the Capitol once a year as part of a meet and greet to talk with the state lawmakers. But this time, because one senator who is apparently anti-gun complained about the sheriffs being armed and laid down the ultimatum. Either the sheriffs had to disarm themselves and leave, or leave. And the sheriffs said, hey, we're going to leave. We're not going to take this. So let's listen to this report real quick.
It's a building of dignity and honor, but what happened at the state capitol recently has law enforcement crying shame.
Everybody in that building knew who we were.
He, in case you don't know, is Wagner County Sheriff Bob Colbert, who, along with 40 other sheriffs from around the state, converged on the Capitol as they do every year to meet and greet and lobby. Until
one of the senators who wouldn't tell us complained because we were armed in the building.
They were then given a choice. Disarm or there's the door.
So we all packed up and left.
Colbert doesn't know for sure which senator complained, but he has his own complaints about the complainer.
We're the people that protect these people.
What's more, he says, maybe if they were worried more about state business than law enforcement officers with guns, Oklahoma would be in better shape.
If the state troopers are satisfied that we're okay to be in that building, I'm pretty sure that the legislators should have something else to worry about. Such as economy or something.
He says some lawmakers have called to apologize, but the sting of getting the boot from the Capitol is going to hurt for a while.
Pretty sad day for me, being sheriff after my career in law enforcement.
Fort Mumolo, Tulsa Channel.
Okay, so what say you? I think I applaud the sheriffs for walking out. I think it was a bit ridiculous. The fact that was stating that, I think the rest of the senators should have stood firm and said, hey, how about you leave, big guy? But it's just getting a little ridiculous, the amount of the extreme that people will go to try to control the guns out there. I mentioned yesterday about from the product that we put into the ammunition, that guy closing down after so many years, causing shortages, which is in fact a form of gun control. We went into that whole diatribe. Here's something on fast food protests planned in 30 cities across the USA. This happened yesterday, so let's take a quick look at it. They're demanding more money and fairer labor out there. Hold on one second. there. We're going to start skipping the part that ATF thing we covered basically yesterday, but there's been some more new changes to it. If I have time, I'll go back to it. I'm trying to cover different areas. This is a protest on wage theft. Right now they're out there saying that they had them working. The workers had to advocate a minimum wage hike. They want a current raise from $7.25 to $15 an hour. That will never happen, folks. At $8.90 an hour, the median wage for fast food employees is a little higher than the federal. Here we go.
A protest against wage theft at McDonald's. It follows several class action lawsuits filed across the nation last week. The news reporter Danica Lawrence joins us live from McDonald's on Bears Avenue near I-275 in Tampa. And Danica, these workers claim McDonald's is forcing them to work off the clock.
Yes, Joe. The protesters I spoke with just a few moments ago were out here in front of this McDonald's off Bears at 275. They tell me they were working unpaid hours, and the other protesters who were there, some of them don't even work for McDonald's, but they were there to support the cause. Cheering and choosing to support one another, these protesters demanding McDonald's gives their employees the pay they say they deserve.
I just feel like it's just wrong, you know what I'm saying, how they doing people.
E. Higgins tells me he used to work at this McDonald's off Beers in 275 in Tampa, making less than $8 an hour. And worse, he says they did not always pay him the time he put in.
They were telling me on my off days, okay, come in for a meeting.
Protesters expressing their anger across the country for months, resulting in 7 class action lawsuits in New York, California, and Michigan. McDonald's says it is reviewing the alleged claims that restaurants are not paying their employees properly, shaving hours off their time cards, forcing employees to work off the clock, and not paying them overtime. McDonald's says it is committed to undertaking a comprehensive investigation of the allegations.
I'm angry with McDonald's for not paying people what they could, for not really helping people that work for them live decently and with dignity.
Protester Chuck Lee is a bishop with a local Catholic church. He, along with others, are there to support those who deserve their pay and, furthermore, higher wages.
All right, this stuff has been going on for a while. I remember when I first got out of the Navy, I managed a restaurant, and we had the same pressures on us. And what corporate would do is come down and say, here's your software tools, and you got to meet these guidelines. It says that based upon the forecasted traffic, you only need one person. You got to cut that person as soon as they're done, and you deal with it yourself. So there's a lot of pressure on the managers because these guys at corporate levels are trying to make their numbers. And the funny thing is that if any of these guys ever came down to the local store, they would not let that person go. They would stick by him and say, he can't go. I don't care what the forecast tool says, but they don't do that. They sit up in their ivory tower. The other issue that I started carrying on that they're having issues with, which a march was on yesterday primarily for, is the wage increase. Now, the average is $8.90 an hour. I can tell you that if we raise the minimum wage, I know Obama's looking at 10.10. These guys want 15. It's never going to happen. These fast food joints cannot function paying you that much money. The only way they're going to be able to do it and make it happen is raising their prices, which is going to, I've covered the whole minimum wage thing several times on a lot of these shows. And I don't want to go through that whole diatribe again. But, reflect on a lot of the past stuff that I've said on it. It's just not going to happen. It doesn't make sense. It drives up all of your costs. You may be getting a raise increase, but with that increase, you may be paying out more in inflation when you go to McDonald's, where most of these demographics tend to eat because the food is a lot cheaper. That hamburger will no longer be $1. That hamburger is going to go up to $2 or $3 because they have to accommodate for the increased financial pressures to pay higher wages. You see the same thing right now in Obamacare. They're passing that on to the consumer. I showed, I think it was a week ago, where they're adding a value-added Obamacare sort of like tax or charge onto receipts at a lot of restaurants. And they're saying, okay, fine, you guys want Obamacare? Well, we got to pass the cost on. Either that, or we got to let employees go, or we just have to shut down our whole business. Now, Nancy Pelosi steps in. She's the person out there She likes to come across like she's fighting for the common man. I don't see her in that way at all. She's an idiot. U.S. House Minority Leader Nancy Pelosi. She's Italian. I just don't like her. She is on a crusade to increase minimum wage and achieve paycheck fairness, establish more paid sick leave, and increase availability of childcare. Okay. Look, I think everybody needs to be paid more. I went through the numbers, and I think it came out to that you have to basically make $50,000 to live comfortably at a nice middle class type lifestyle, and that's not going out or anything. It was ridiculous. So I understand. Yeah, you got to get paid more. The problem is the companies can't afford to pay you more. It's not built into their plans. It's virtually impossible. I mean, a lot of companies can, but a lot of these fast food joints, the ones that she wants to raise the minimum wage on, can't. And what they're going to do is they're either going to let people go, they're going to raise their prices, or they're just going to shut down their business. She wants to establish more paid sick leave. That's not going to happen either. You're talking about the same demographics that are working at these fast food places. It's a nice thought, but it's going to put us in the same situation that you're in over in Europe, where they have all that sick leave. Increase availability of child care. Look, basically, I'm all for doing what we can for the working folk. We need to get out there. We need to make a productive member of this society, but we got to stop this entitlement train of thought here. They have to get out there, and if you don't want to make minimum wage, go out and get an education. Go out and train yourself on another field of expertise so you don't have to work at McDonald's. And as I think I've covered before, most of them are teenagers or in their early 20s, and they're not your common man that's out there. For women to succeed, Pelosi said the government must do the three things: increase the minimum wage, establish balance between responsibilities of work and home, and establish a more robust early childhood learning programs. Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee, who's an even bigger idiot, demanding an increase in the minimum wage to $10.10 an hour and child care for 24/7, 365 days a year. So now they want you to take care of child care too. Add that in there. Child care is not cheap, folks. It's not cheap at all. Do I want this? I would love for Americans to have a better working conditions. I would love all this stuff. Is the money there? No. Is it realistic? No. Who's going to end up paying for it? The people that are already putting a lot of blood, sweat, and tears into their jobs right now, trying to squeeze out a meager living. Let's see, what's this? The data shows millions of Americans are falling out of the workforce. Working age Americans who aren't working has shot up almost 9 million since 2007 by almost 15 million since 2000, says the Center for Immigration Studies. By the late 2012, roughly 50 million native working age Americans were not working, up from 40 million in 2000. The shift in employment patterns underlies the rising opposition to any amnesty of illegal immigrants. Only 4% of Americans regard immigration as a top problem facing the United States. The opposition to increased immigration may have played a role in the March 11th win by David Jolly. He was just up the road here from me. I don't think that played a role. I think basically the person he was going against was incompetent. She didn't run a great campaign. Obamacare played into that. I don't think immigration played into it. I saw a lot of the commercials. I looked at a lot of the stuff, the communications literature out there, and I don't know if I'm buying into that. Now, all right, so the immigration is playing a key role, which I was going to go into this one, but I'll go into this here. And it's come out that Latinos have become the majority in California, but remain political lightweights. This said that a lot of people are not for the amnesty, right? Because it takes away their jobs, right? Makes a whole lot of sense. Well, that's showing in California, and they said that now California has the highest propensity of Spanish people, Mexican people, versus white. The official population of California will be 39% Latino. 38.8% of the state residents are white non-Hispanics. The number of Latinos was initially expected to surpass the non-Hispanic white population. Let's see, New Mexico has that same situation. Now here it is. They say 53 million Latinos in the U.S. 17.2% of the population. But they account for only 10.8% of the eligible voters out there, 8.4% of the actual voters. Why is that? Because they're illegal. They're illegal immigrants. My dad came here. My dad immigrated here, but he did it the legal way. These guys are illegal. So what's that do? It brings up that whole amnesty thing that Obama keeps pushing. He wants better amnesty out there for the illegals. He wants them here because they'll vote Democratic. In addition to voting Democratic, he'll be able to fulfill some of his other needs out there. Now, the ones I'm surprised that the unions are such great supporters of the Democrats. You think they would be against this because more immigrants impact the union jobs out there. Obama wants undocumented migrants deported more humanely too. He announced Thursday that he's ordered a review of U.S. deportation practices in order to see if they can be processed more humanely. I thought we were very humanely in how we handled them compared to other countries. Reform activists who have grown frustrated with the spike in deportations during Obama's term of office are starting to fight it. They're emphasizing this deep concern about the pain too many families are going through when they're being deported. It's clear that pleas from the community have gotten through to the president. He can review cannot be excuse for delay, said Chris Newman. Come on, folks. Like I said, my dad immigrated here. I don't believe in this amnesty if they came over illegally. Tough luck. Send them back. They can try to come back over the border. We have our own problems. We need to take care of a lot of our own issues here and not worry about Mexico, Italia, Ukraine, Syria, or all these other places. Start focusing on the Americans and what a lot of our issues are here. Once we get our house in order, then we can go and look elsewhere. Will our house get in order? I don't know. These guys, a lot of Americans want the $15 an hour. Well, what they're doing is they're bringing in these illegals and they're paying them a lot less. And they're probably not getting, I'm sick, or the more of an entitlement Americana way of train of thought on work, which most of the Mexican, Spanish are pretty good workers out there. This here, I came across, who's this from? Intel Hub News. It's about a 29-year-old welfare parasite who would not accept an $80,000 a year job driving a truck. This is from Michael Snyder. This is an amazing story about this 29-year-old, and he was on a few talk shows. Jason Greenslate. Most people who receive government assistance truly need help and do not abuse the system, but there are definitely others that do abuse the system, which I was talking about yesterday with that whole entitlement diatribe that I went into. Jason, this 29-year-old, he was asked if he's willing to take a job driving a truck in North Dakota for $80,000 a year. He said he would not. He would rather keep purchasing sushi and lobster with his EBT card and hang out with his rock band. How nice of the guy. The question comes, is this really what we pay our taxes for? The rest of us are taxed into oblivion, and we can't fund endless partying by this guy, this parasite like Jason. What in God's name is happening to our country, folks? What's happening out there? What are we becoming a nation of? This entitlement nanny state has got to end. He says his job is to make sure that the sun's up and the girls are out, and he would rather spend his days partying. In fact, he took Fox News into a gourmet section of the local supermarket where he purchased his sushi and lobster with his EBT card. Hannity pointed out that Greenslate rides around in a Cadillac Escalade while collecting welfare, getting discount on FPL, getting food stamps, getting Obamacare. He probably has an Obama phone. But he drives around in that Escalade. He frequents strip clubs, all while receiving government assistance and not working. So why work? Why do people want to work when they can have Frank Abbruzzino go out and work and cover all these entitlements so that he can sit at home eating bombs and watching the Jerry Springer show? It's getting a little ridiculous, folks. Unfortunately, however, there's a lot of Jason Greenslates out there, and the number is growing with each passing year, especially now that we got this entitlement president in there that wants to give him more and more and more. He wants these parasites to latch onto him, and continue to support the democratic process and keep them guys in power so that they can continue to hand out all these free entitlements to these idiots like this parasite Jason. People like that just drive me crazy, and that, you're seeing that more and more where people are like that. Gimme, gimme, gimme. That's what got this whole damn Obamacare thing in. There was people like, gimme, gimme, gimme. I want more. Enough with that, folks. All right. Let's see. We're gonna cover an environmental issue. Let me see. Weather control, coal ash spills. I wanted to cover this. Cleanup of a major toxic waste. Let's see. We got several things here. Despite lack of public concern, Obama admin launches into a new climate initiative. We have Duke. This is something I've covered with you guys before. Duke Energy, where they've spilled into the Dane River in Carolinas. The environmental agencies show that state regulators were coordinating with Duke Energy before intervening in efforts by citizens groups to try to sue the company over polluted leaching from coal ash dumps. The AP, which had filed a notice in January 2013 of the intent to sue, the Southern Environmentalists wanted to sue them. Duke lobbyists contacted the North Carolina Department of Environmental Protection, and where staff exchanged messages and discussions. Next thing you know, the agency used its authority to intervene in the lawsuit and propose a settlement when the $50 billion company would only pay $99,100 in a fine and no requirement to stop the pollution. I showed a lot of pictures of this pollution, folks. If you're on my earlier shows, I don't know, it was maybe a month ago. It was just black tar looking stuff. And what sucked about this whole situation is these individuals, this company, Duke, they knew that control valve had been damaged or malfunctioned several times. It wasn't the first time. It was right there next to the river, so they knew if it was malfunctioning that they would have issues with pollution into that river. What did they do? Well, they put an alarm on there, which will tell them when it's malfunctioning. But guess what? The alarm wasn't working. So the alarm's not working and malfunctions, and then there was a delay to contact authorities to take care of the cleanup. So now we got all this polluted water down there, and I think this is just one of many. There's been a few that I've covered over the last few month or two. It's really ridiculous. Here's another one. Where is it? Right here. And you probably don't even hear about this stuff, folks. Crude oil pipeline bust contaminates Ohio Nature Preserve. Do I have this on the, let me see, weather control, coal ash spill. I do have the coal ash spill video. Let me go to that one. I hope they have some pictures in there. I don't remember this. Some of the stuff, I think I put this one up over the weekend. I haven't had time to get to it because I keep on talking nonstop. This is unedited footage of it. Let's see what this shows. You can't see the extensive pollution there, but there's a plant, obviously, right on the water. The valve was direct access to it. And then what's amazing about this is after like a week, they said, oh, the water's clean, you guys can drink from it, yet it was still majorly polluted and damaged. So that's just an plane flying over it. Here's another one here. Second radiation leak at detected New Mexico nuclear waste site. I was going to go into this. This came up just as I went on the air. And they said about a month after radiation leaks were reported, and I reported on those radiation leaks like 5 days before major media. Could not understand why they were not reporting on this significant spike at this Carlsbad location. Prior to that, they had a fire there. According to the AP, all air monitoring stations near the waste isolation plant in Carlsbad, New Mexico, have picked up elevated radiation readings again. One of the world's 3 deep nuclear repository has been shut down since February when sharp rises in radiation levels was linked to a leak in the underground tunnel storing radioactive waste about 600 meters underground. And you know what's crazy about this thing, folks, is where is the screen? What's crazy about this is you're not hearing about it a lot of major media. I think I started hearing about it like 4, 5, 6 days afterwards. The other issue here is they're not going underground, so they're still bringing all this contaminated radiation waste, radioactive waste, and they're still bringing it in barrels, and they're storing them out in the parking lot. So let's say it's on the parking lot, one of them leaks, one of them busts open. Who knows what's going to happen to the environment there? What's going to happen to the people that are living there? I thought I had something. Hold on a second. All right. I don't see it here, but okay. Now the next issue, and I did not bring this on, and this is the crude oil pipeline bust contaminates Ohio nature preserve. I'm going to try to show you some of these pictures. Let me see if I can get that up there. Okay, we need to go this way. That's one of them. And look at this. It's just, I don't know if you guys can see it. It's just black in there. There we go. Right there. See that? All right. So, what's this story? Basically, 240 barrels of crude oil seeped from the underground pipeline and contaminated a large area in the Oak Glen Nature Preserve in Ohio. It's relatively small, they say. That's small. 240 barrels, yeah. The cleanup process is expected to be tricky, though. They're going to have some issues. Since local residents reported smelling petroleum at the time, they're having concerns. We do have a large area impacted, they said, but it's contained. We have it contained. The bad news is it's a mile of creek has been impacted, and the 240 barrels comes to about 10,000 gallons. The crude oil is pooled in a marshland area about the size of a football field. But authorities said don't worry, and they gave their assurance that the leak is unlikely to affect drinking water in the region. How many times have we heard that where government entities have come out and said, don't worry, it's not going to impact your drinking water in the area. Go ahead and drink up. And next thing we know, they're full of crap, and they don't know what they're talking about. I have that issue here where in Venice, we're always having raw sewage spills and significant amount of raw sewage. And they'll come on and say, oh, sure, it went down in the water system, but hey, we caught it in the nick of time, and there's no contamination. Yeah, right. And what's sad about this is I think the government goes with the idea that if we say it, guess what? People will believe it, and they'll buy into the whole program. Let me see where we're at for time. All right, let me see what we want to cover here. All right, this one. We'll do this. This is we're going to do the snapping of an arm first. This is, I have a segment on police abuse, so I'm a big supporter of officers around here, as many of the local area know. With a lot of my pages and a lot of stuff I do, I'm not a supporter of abuses of power, and I think that too many police officers are like the politicians out there. They get this power and they abuse it. They don't know how to handle it. I would not say a tremendous amount of them. I would say it's a small percentage, and they are out there. What I don't like is how a lot of the police stations, police departments will come in and protect these individuals as much as they can. We have a case right here in Northport where the individual they went to a party. One was on duty. The other one was off duty. The on-duty cop handcuffed some girl. The off-duty lady cop made sexual advances on this girl. And coincidentally, they're now saying that there may be ties to that case and another sexual conduct case previously. They won't release any of the names. They won't release any information, which I released. I found some stuff, and I sent the links on my page that basically release some of the information. But it's just ridiculous that they're going to such great lengths to protect the officers. So let's look at this kid. Let me get it out while we're talking. Let me see here. And the technical ends of this sometimes is a pain. Right here, kid with broken arm. All right, so basically, the shocking video has emerged of the campus police officer violently breaking the arm as a kid screams out in agony during an incident at the Westbrook school. Now, obviously, this kid was being a little aggressive, and they should have done something, but I guess they snapped the arm after he was under control. Did you guys see that? I heard the pop. Wow. And so that's what's issue. The guy was on the ground. I don't know why the officer, I'm not sure why the officer grabbed him, because I was looking in that direction. I didn't see anything. Perhaps there was a reason, and I'm going to assume that the officer used her best judgment. Where it comes into issue is, how did that get so high like that? Hold on, folks. Let me see what just happened here. Wow, that's weird. All right, just something internal. What did not happen, she had the guy down on the arm. The other officer came along. Obviously, it was a controlled situation. Next thing you know, the guy's over there just snapping the arm of the individual. I see what I did. I went on my Venice Scoop page. Venice Scoop is what I do for my local media. I'm like, what is this? A weird page. The footage of the incident shows squabbles breaking out. There's a female officer. She grabs the male, which we all saw. The female officer presses the student's face in the ground. Rivers grabs his left arm and violently bends it backwards, and it appears to be a deliberate attempt to snap the bone. Officer Rivers was placed on administrative leave without pay. Numerous respondents to the 12 News on story said that the student deserved to have his arm broken. Other commenters responded by pointing out that the student was already subdued and did not need to have his arm broken. What say you out there, folks? All right, the rest of the stuff is going to have to wait. So what we're going to do now is, all right, so here it is. I never get through my stuff at all. We're going to watch this quick, I got a quick inspirational one to end it, and so let's look at this video real quick. Fail to succeed. It's only a minute long, folks. All right, what happened there? You know what? I started too early. Let me see. Boom. All right, here, let's watch this again. I don't know what happened there.
Dismissed from drama school with a note that read, "Wasting her time. She's too shy to put her best foot forward." Turned down by the Decca Recording Company, who said, "We don't like their sound, and guitar music is on the way out." A failed soldier, farmer, and real estate agent. At 38 years old, he went to work for his father as a handyman. Cut from the high school basketball team, he went home, locked himself in his room, and cried. A teacher told him he was too stupid to learn anything, and he should go into a field where he might succeed by virtue of his pleasant personality. Fired from a newspaper because he lacked imagination and had no original ideas. His fiancée died. He failed in business twice. He had a nervous breakdown, and he was defeated in 8 elections. If you've never failed, you've never lived.
All right, and isn't that the truth, folks? I tell you what, when quick story, I know I'm near the end of my time. When I was in high school, I had a counselor, guidance counselor, God, what was his name? Mitchell. Guidance counselor was Mitchell. He hated me. I was basically just this little surf punk. I was a troublemaker. I was a troubled youth, I would say. I went in to do my, sit down and do my, plan out your life. What do you want to do with your life? We can get you going in the right direction. And every student was doing it. I think I was a senior at the time. And I sat down, I went in to do mine with him, and he basically told me that you're useless, you're not going to amount anything to your life, and he wouldn't even review it with me. It is short, to the point, and he ended up kicking me out. Basically, you gotta fail. Similar to this situation, people will tell you that you suck at something, and you may suck at that, you may not suck at that, but you can't let them get you down. I didn't let that guy get me down, and I ended up going to the University of Maryland. I started some of my master's degree work, and I think I've turned out relatively pretty good. So life's going to throw you many hurdles. Many times you'll think you're a failure. People will tell you a failure, but you can't let them get you down. All right, so looking for sponsors. If you're interested in sponsoring the program, fabbruzzino@yahoo.com, or I also run that in conjunction with my Facebook pages. Hopefully you're getting a lot out of the show. Hopefully it's educating, inspiring, and getting you to make some changes in your life on how you view different things. That's basically it for the show. This was a TVSN Minor Threat Worldwide broadcast. I will be back tomorrow at 3 with the hopes of getting through this pile and not running out of time like I did today. So for Francesco Abbruzzino, everybody have a great night out there.